about this irrepressible movement, starting way back, 2 hours and 11 minutes after sunset in Iran, when the first believer found the forerunner of Baha'u'llah, the Bab, the gate. He was so ecstatic that the Bab would not let him rejoin his companions because his ecstasy might appear to others as craziness. Remember that? And then, some years later, in the dark dungeon of the Siachal, Baha'u'llah received the revelation for today from a maid of heaven who appeared before him. And she assured him that that movement, beginning there in that dungeon, would become worldwide, and that he would be victorious by his pen and by those who followed him.
Go through this conference for the next few days. I would like us to really keep in mind the Iranian friends. Not just in the sense of really saying a word or two about them and then going on to our next thing, but really keep in mind their sacrifices. The youth that have been denied the right to go to school, the people that are in jail for years on end without justification, the people whose life savings have been confiscated without justification. We really need to make sure that we keep really spiritually in touch with them. That spiritually we kind of connect with their suffering. And their suffering really, as I will explain to you today, plays a major role in the future development of the faith, I think, globally. And it has really helped for us to understand a lot more about ourselves and about the nature of the Baha'i involvement in the discourse of society, which is our theme for today.
And I think it's worth mentioning that our House of Justice over the last several decades, and often the Rizwan message, takes the opportunity to remind us of the devoted, steadfast, sacrificial service of the Persian Baha'i community in Iran, which really has won the sympathy of most of the world for the cause of Baha'u'llah. And most recently, we have seen the intelligentsia, the pundits, the leaders of thought of the Iranian expatriate community, those living outside of Iran, who have come now to publicly voice their support and sympathy of the Baha'i community, which the Guardian said would signal the immediacy of the emancipation of the Baha'i faith in Iran.
Regardless of which background we come from and which ancestry, we are carrying with us a very heavy baggage of traditions and rituals and words that are highly loaded. And when the Baha'i faith arrived, all of us, whether we came from Zoroastrian, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Hindu, or any other background to this faith, we carried with us that very heavy load. And we automatically assume that everything means the same thing. I'm sure by now most of us know that that's not the case, and hence the presentation today. A paradigm shift.
Then fast forward again. The faith begins to grow not just in Iran, but in other countries, in Europe, in North America. And gradually, over the course of the next 50 years, first under Abdu'l-Bahá and then under Shoghi Effendi, the Baha'is spread thinly all over the globe, putting down roots, and a little bit puzzled because we're so small wherever we are that no one seems to notice us. Try as we might, people don't seem to know about us. But under the wise guidance of the center of the faith, we spread all over the planet in small little pockets, pioneers going everywhere, settling in the goal areas. And the beginnings of a movement come to life.
And the cause of Baha'u'llah is very much alive and progressing very rapidly. You know, every day that I pray and thank God for having created such a blessed community and for having allowed me to be part of it. I think we should all be grateful to God and pray that for such a beautiful religion, for such a beautiful movement that He has created.
The building of this glorious civilization will not be achieved by us alone, should not lessen the significance, nor the glory of the role we are called to play, that of a catalyst. In a chemical reaction, the catalyst always accelerates the process. And thus, our role could be as accelerators of the course of history toward its culmination, the oneness of the human race, and the establishment of a global civilization. This is no small matter.
But what the world needs at such a critical moment in history is not a mere palliative. What the world needs is not a mere palliative. It needs a movement that goes deep into it needs a movement that goes deep into its social and spiritual illness and brings about a complete fundamental change. So that's what the Baha'i faith is. It goes deep into illness and produces a fundamental change. A change that will include in its scope both the social and the spiritual reform of man.
In several passages in his writings, Shoghi Effendi sheds insights on that world civilization. That a global civilization was anticipated by the world since its very foundation. This hope was the subject of song of poets, the dream of seers, the vision of visionaries, the prophecy of prophets. And yet it was not achievable.
Imagine travel. The fastest we could go until almost 200 years ago was on a horseback or on a sailing boat, maybe going at 20 miles per hour. Now compare that to the type of speeds we have for commercial traveling, not for space traveling. And you can check this scale applies to every other aspect that we have.
Beckoning humankind that it's time for a global mind, the coming of age of the whole human race and a world civilization. That world civilization, that pearl of great price, is now taking form, in the words of beloved Shoghi Effendi, in the shell ordained to enshrine that priceless jewel. Its galvanizing force is Baha'u'llah. The guidance for its creation flows through the plans of the Baha'i world. Its executors, yes, its executors, are us, ordinary men and women who were made extraordinary through discharge of acceleration of the course of history.
The Baha'i faith is a mystical faith. It has come so that we have that deeper spiritual relationship with our Lord. So it's not social movement. And these are the words of God, the Guardian. The core of religious faith is that mystic feeling which unites man with God. And the chief goal of this Baha'i faith is the development of individual and society through acquisition of the spiritual virtues and powers.
That we are engaged in the reordering of human life on the planet, not only within the Baha'i community, but in the larger world around us. It's my reflection that when historians look back at this time, They will look to the Rizwan letter of 2010 as the precise moment, the launch date if you like, when the Baha'i community announced that its mission would include, as the entire world community, engaging the remaking of material conditions on the planet. We are systematically building community. We are to include social action and winning the hearts and minds in the arena of public debate. It's as if the sun rose and the light is everywhere at the dawn. The faith of Baha'u'llah has encompassed the world. The light is everywhere. We are the most geographically widespread religious community. But now the House of Justice is calling for that sun, that revelation of Baha'u'llah, to rise in the sky such that it will reach the grassroots, the communities, building community. In English you say, reach the grassroots.
Do what Abdu'l-Bahá says. If he will humbly submit to sacrifice that right opinion for the sake of unity and accord, listen to this, God will accept that sacrifice. And ere long, the rightful matter shall be established without any further dispute by the divine assistance. Whereas, without such submissiveness and sacrifice, great harm might ensue. And when someone has done something to you that's deeply hurtful, offer up your broken heart to Allah. Forgive, overlook, resume. Do what Abdu'l-Bahá says, bring joy to hearts. If someone gives you poison, give them honey in return. When we do that, there is nothing that can stop this irrepressible movement that Baha'u'llah has given us, and that the House of Justice has so wonderfully shaped.
In one tablet, Abdu'l-Bahá asks a believer to supplicate for ecstasy. Thank thou God that thou hast stepped into the arena of existence in such a blessed age, and has opened thine ears and thine eyes in such a promised day. Supplicate ardently for spiritual attraction and ecstasy. Yes, in state of ecstasy, in perfect flow of that peak experience, we can resound these verses quoted by Baha'u'llah in the gems of divine history. I knew not what amazement was until I made thy cause my love. How amazing it would be if I were not to be amazed by thee.
Friends, that's what the framework of the plan is all about. That is what the core activities are all about. It is about systematically training human resources who will then choose a path of service, hopefully with priority to the core activities, to address the fundamental spiritual issues that are the source of the instability in a collapsing old world order. We know from our writings, the House of Justice says, these are the words of the House, material conditions are but a reflection of spiritual conditions. There can be no lasting change for the better in material conditions until spiritual conditions are changed.